You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 144, the science assignment task that I recently dissected, which proves why students should always start with the rubric or marking criteria before they even think about starting the actual assignment, and how to be much more strategic in the sequencing of tackling any assessment task they face. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hey VIPs, Happy New Year. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you and your teens have all had a really wonderful break, a lovely Christmas if you celebrated, and some time to chill out and have fun with friends and family. I have had a combo of a bit of relaxation and a little bit of planning for what is ahead. And I will be the first to admit that I am not the best at totally relaxing. In fact, actually, probably my husband might be the first to say that. But sometimes I kind of think I should work on it. Sometimes I just decide that this is who I am and I'll embrace it. And so this summer, I have embraced it. Because at the end of last year, you may remember that I decided to offer a one-to-one summer intensive. Because this has been the one and only summer that we have had no family visiting over from the UK. They have all been told that they can't visit the house or come here and stay with us until the reno is finished, which I am hoping, maybe optimistically, will all be done by the middle of this year. You can absolutely queue up me saying that again come June. But normally, if we don't have visitors, then we usually do a trip away. We take the dog, we get an Airbnb somewhere, and we do lots of walks and relax and just go see somewhere new and different. But we are saving up any trips away for when the bathroom or the toilet or whatever is getting done, and any other time when things are going to become a little bit unlivable in the house. So I have been spending my summer, with that combo of relaxation and productive work, working with students and, planning ahead. So from that, I have had a huge amount of examples and interesting occurrences and things that I really want to share with you from that intensive summer experience. Now, number one is I have really loved this. I have loved doing these sessions, loved personalizing everything to the students that I've been working with, and love that some students who may never have really gotten this training or these skills or strategies that I can see they have needed, because maybe my group programs or my coaching or the 10-week grade transformation program just haven't really been something that's resonated with them or been a right fit for them. And so the 11 students that I've been working with have all gotten so much on board in this short time and loaded into their toolkit over these past 7 or 8 weeks, ready to start applying and actioning and then honing and developing and up-leveling everything as they start the new school year. And that is exactly what they'll be doing and I'll be doing with them. So from the 1st of February, they're going to be moving into phase 2 of that intensive program that I mapped out, which is essentially on-the-job coaching, personal support and development with their actual tasks, their study that they are being set at their schools and from their subjects. And Gemma, our English focus coach, and I will be twice a week working with them to hone and advance their skills as they apply them, as they reap the rewards of this summer training. And I'm really looking forward to having them see all of that training in action and see the impact on their confidence and their results. And so I have decided that I'm going to take on just 2 one-to-one students in this intensive way per term for this year. Now, I reserve the right to change my mind again at the end of the year, but I'm going to give it a try because this is intensive on both sides. But I also think it is really worthwhile. And I know that there are some parents and students out there who essentially want this, and I am going to do my very best to provide that just for those who want that big chunk of upfront training. They want that really fast, intensive impact and reward by getting the exact skills that best match their exact personal needs, their current or really they're lacking skill sets or tools or techniques, which I will help to determine. So if this sounds good, if you would like more information about that, then just send an email to support@rocksolidstudy.com with the word intensive in the subject line, and I will send you some more information and a couple of questions for you to answer so that we can both see if it is actually a good fit. Obviously, it is a higher price point. It is still online. Your teen will need to commit a couple of hours per week, so please be aware of that. But if you think that this is what your teen needs and they're up for it, they know this is what they need and what they want, and you both want to make a big difference in a short time, then feel free to send that email for more information. Now, the second thing that has come out of this summer, and this is for all of you, is that I have been noticing some interesting patterns in the students that I've been working with, and some of the most common issues that I've been training them to overcome and skills to put into action and strategies to develop. And these are really no different to the thousands of students that I've worked with over the years, but I guess they're kind of more spotlighted when I'm working in this more intense way and working one-to-one. So I'm going to share some of these with you over the next few episodes here on the podcast, and I'm going to start today with the concept of reverse engineering and working backwards with tasks and assessments. Now, I've talked about this a fair bit. I definitely talk about it a lot with students. I did a whole episode on reverse engineering for success back in episode 77. So I will link to that in the show notes and you can go check that out afterwards. But today I want to share with you what is such a brilliant real life example of it in action. So one of my summer intensive students shared with me an assignment task that they had been set to complete over the summer. Such an excellent demonstration of some of the critical key strategies and skills that are so important when it comes to those bigger tasks, those projects, those reports, those assignments, those inquiries, because this is what I'm talking about when I get so excited about this sort of training and coaching. It's that double whammy benefit of not only working on that actual task and having some actionable steps and knowing, the best path forwards, but they also in the process then get to build and get trained in the concepts and the skills and the underlying understanding that they can then carry forwards to every future task. I've come to sort of think of this type of coaching and training as a little bit like an apprenticeship. Like we just learn on the job. As things come up and come through, we get to learn, if you like, the syllabus, the content, the skills as we work on and through the task. Now, the strategy I really want to share in this episode is knowing when to refer to and how to use any mark scheme or criteria or rubric that accompanies an assignment task. Because it's becoming more and more clear to me over time that we essentially present this to students, we lay it out for students in a way that when it comes to being strategic and tactical is basically backwards. We are guiding students through the process of tackling an assignment in what is really, I am coming to see, the most inefficient way, because we are so used to putting those marking criteria, the rubric, the success criteria, whatever it is, they are all the same thing. They're just different words for how your teen is going to be marked, what it's going to be judged against. They always get put at the end of all of the actual information and task instructions. They're either on the back of the task sheet, they're stapled onto the back, they are pasted on the final page of a document, or even if it is digital, sometimes as a separate document. And what I would kind of love to see, I know this might not quite work in reality, but strategically, like I said, tactically, this is how I work things. What I would kind of love to see is that the criteria is actually on the very front page, or it's the very first thing that they are guided to. Now, I'm not talking about the syllabus dot points or the learning objectives. Those often are on the very front page, but they're quite generic. They're pretty general. I'm talking about the actual mark scheme, the specific descriptors. Okay, what is considered excellent, what is good, what is satisfactory, what is below standard, or what is an A down to an E grade. So what I'm basically saying here is we would give them the title of the assignment, and then we would immediately say, okay, here's what we're looking for, here's how you're going to be marked, here's how your work is going to be judged and assessed, and then Here's therefore how we recommend you do this. Here's how you demonstrate these capabilities. Here are the steps or the sections that you need to include and how to actually go about meeting those requirements. Because remember, and I have said this before, and I'm sure I'll say it again, an assignment or some form of project or an extended task or any kind of creative task of any sort is just the vehicle to demonstrate certain knowledge or skills. And those knowledge or skills are those objectives, those syllabus dot points, and the task, the assessment, is simply the vehicle to demonstrate those, to be able to show them. So it would make sense to say, okay, here's what you need to show or demonstrate, and then here's how we're going to do it. But the problem is when those are put at the back, it's kind of giving that indirect message that either it's kind of less important, like it's just the thing for the teacher. It's sort of, we're just showing this to you, but you don't really need to use it. And that is often how these things are interpreted, quite honestly. Or it's the thing that we should maybe consider last. It's almost like an afterthought, or it's like just a checklist, something to check against once you've actually gone through and completed all of these other instructions first. And when I share with you what this real life task was that had been given out, you're going to really see why this is such a terrible order to do all of this in. Even if your team's assignments are not quite as extreme in the nature that this occurs as this one, okay? I still recommend it no matter what. So the task was called, the title of the task was Fake News. It was a senior science assignment. It was year 12 bio. And it was kind of nice as a task. I thought it was like topical, it was engaging, it was teaching relevant life skills for the world today and into the future, as well as obviously covering the subject content. Now, the task instructions were in two parts. There were essentially two parts of the task. Part one, it said, was constructing a fake news article of 200 words, and it was about a topic related to Antarctica or the Southern Ocean. There were some categories of topics listed that students might want to use or consider for their fake news article. There were things like the diversity of marine life, the threats to the ecosystem, the measuring and monitoring of the ocean, climate change. So there were a few different topics that were suggested. And then it gave a suggested structure. So like a scaffold for this fake news article. There was the headline, the body of the story, and they also suggested putting in a few literary devices to kind of make it a little bit hypey and up the fakeness a little bit, along with some, and this was important, some true facts to make it feel real. And I would say this was a pretty good way to, like I said, help educate students as to how fake news kind of works, how to look out for it, as well as also, like I said, covering some of that subject content. And then part two of the task was that the students had to write a rebuttal of 500 words to explain why that fake news story is incorrect. Again, a scaffold was provided with bullet points of what to include and how to structure it all that had them explain what was true and also highlight what was incorrect and then how or why it was incorrect. And they, of course, had to use their own research and provide a list of references to support those points. Now, as I always do, as I got to work with this student on getting to grips with this, I glanced through the task info, the instructions, those scaffolds, but I didn't start by reading through any of it in detail. I saw those two parts, that we had the fake news story and then the rebuttal piece of writing, and then I flipped straight to the back and we started the actual coaching, the process of tackling the assignment by dissecting the marking guide. And oh, how glad we were that we did that. Because guess what? The rubric had nothing, I mean zero, in there about the fake news story. Every single criteria was related to the rebuttal. At the top level, it had exceptionally clear and logical presentation of rebuttal. So we went through what makes something considered exceptionally clear versus the next level down, which was just clear. Then they had very strong and pervasive arguments throughout, a strong and logical sequence. Again, what makes something strong or very strong rather than just good or adequate? And the third one, excellent cross-checking of statements in the fake news supported by empirical research. So yes, we got into excellent versus that next level down, which was good. And by the way, I know I could totally go off on a tangent about what makes something excellent versus good. If your team needs that kind of training, what makes it good versus excellent, what is considered sophisticated rather than just detailed, I have an in-depth, high-level workshop about exactly this in our member portal. It is called How to Hit the Top Criteria in Extended Responses, which delivers exactly how to figure all this stuff out and then how to actually go on and deliver it in your teens writing. It is included for students in any of my coaching programs. And of course, it is included for students in my Year 12 Finish Strong or Year 9 to 11 Next Level coaching program. And of course, for any intensive students as well. There is so much to get into with all of that, but that is not for here today. What I want you to do is see what wasn't there at all in that rubric. There were no marks for the fake news article. The only mention of it was that they have to cross-check their statements from that article in the rebuttal to address them. So this very quickly showed that the fake news part of the task was simply there to set up the rebuttal. So it's not that we didn't need to bother with it. I wasn't about to say, hey, look, let's not just write the fake news because there's no marks for it. But we should only really be giving it time and energy in the sense that we need to construct it in a way that allows us, that gives us the opportunities to do all of the things that are required in the rebuttal at the highest levels. And in the back of my mind, I'm just there starting to worry about how many students doing this task are starting out, putting in a ton of time and effort into coming up with a fake news story, researching it, adjusting it to be fake, really focusing on their persuasive writing techniques, that clickbait, emotive style language, to only then later get onto the rebuttal. And only later to realize that maybe that fake news story wasn't the best setup for their rebuttal. Maybe they don't end up doing their best work in the rebuttal. Maybe they don't even put in as much time or effort as they did into the fake news story because, let's be honest, it's later down the line, they might already be flagging a little bit. And maybe even not until they get their marks back do they realize that nothing they've written in that fake news story is actually getting them any marks. That task is called fake news. It's literally the title of the task. The rubric even had the heading fake news at the top. So it's completely understandable why students would kind of have that part of the task as the main part of their task, where they're focusing their time and energy, when really they need to be doing that whole thing backwards. Because as I explained to the student, we want to minimize the time and effort on the fake news and we want to maximize it on the rebuttal. And I actually advise them to start planning and researching for their rebuttal first. Plan that out, know what that needs to consist of, know where you want to go with it, and then plan out and then write the fake news part afterwards. They can still then write the fake news sort of article so they can really make sure they reference it and quote it properly in that rebuttal, but we want to put all of the focus, all of the initial planning, all of the research, all of our topic selection on that rebuttal being the main part of this task. I want them to consider all of the things that are required in the rebuttal and consider what would be a great topic to allow them to fulfill all of those requirements and make their topic decision based on that. Plan out the rebuttal and then make up a fake news story that is going to enable that rebuttal, is going to be the springboard for that rebuttal. Very backwards in terms of how the task is structured, but so much more strategic and efficient. If a student worked forwards on that task, they'd be choosing a topic based on something that maybe they're interested in or that no one else is doing. I'll come to that on another episode. And then we'd be researching to find some facts to include, and then we'd be writing the fake news article. We'd be twisting a couple of the facts or making some other stuff up, and then including that emotive language, the clickbait headline. We'd probably be thinking a lot about the headline. That happens a lot. And so far, we would have gained 0 marks. We would not have hit any part of the criteria yet, only when they got onto the rebuttal. And like I said, the main decisions would not have been made with that in mind. And I am not having a go at whoever wrote this task. I am never doing that. Very often there are very specific assessment formats that have to be followed by teachers, by schools, and often even according to the actual exam boards. But what happens is when students know and understand this stuff and they get how assignments and assessment really works, it does not matter what order the pages or the instructions or the sections are in, because they understand how to intentionally and strategically dissect it and replan it so that they can save themselves so much time and energy and effort and potentially stress along the way. Plus, of course, it's going to be a much higher quality finished item. If they have planned that rebuttal rather than the fake news first, that's going to allow them to include primary literature references that have been really carefully selected. They're going to have a strong logical sequence, notice I'm using these words from that marking criteria, for their rebuttal arguments, for the points that they're writing in that rebuttal. And that's going to allow exceptionally clear sequencing, that cross-checking, and it's not going to end up leaving them struggling to find the ideally matched actual scientific published research or just one or 2 points that they can make. It doesn't end up with them waffling or going off on tangents because they haven't pre-planned or pre-organized or pre-researched the thing that is actually responsible for all of their marks. This is what will make everything so much more efficient. This is what's going to allow students to produce the results that really reflect their knowledge and understanding, that give them that return on effort. Because this student is for sure still going to be putting in effort, they're still going to be putting in time, but they're going to be putting that into that initial research to determine a suitable topic that has the literature, enables them to craft their rebuttal and then craft their fake news story. Can you see how much time the student will save by not starting out with the thing that is labeled number 1 in that task, and how much higher the quality and the standard of their final piece will be? I hope that I have done a good enough job of explaining that to persuade you and your teen that really spending that time on getting clear on this before they start, even when they're under time pressure, I would say especially when they're under time pressure, this is so, so important. And if you would love for your teen to have me alongside them, doing these dissections with them, having my expert opinion and having my guided strategy discussions with them, and having this insider guidance and knowledge and insight, then consider this my invite to consider coming in and training and coaching with me. I currently have a few spaces in my year 9 to 11 next level group because I have a lot of students continuing from last year. I'm in the process of setting up a whole new year 12 cohort in Finish Strong, as of course my 2025 group is all graduated now. Or if they want that intensive, fast impact, personalized one-to-one experience, then like I say, I will be taking on just a couple of students each term for that. You can email support@rocksolidstudy.com. Let me know what you would like more info on or what sounds good to you, and I will get back to you personally. And here's to a super positive, successful, productive, and strategic year ahead for your teen. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you back here soon. Take care. Bye. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation Program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program, and I'll see you there.